Yo guys, it's me Matrix here. We are bringing you the VDL-V Create Season 8 Finals review. Yeah, so we're gonna basically, well, I say we, it's just me this week. Um, I am taking over from Batista. Both of us are really cramped down with work at the moment, with both of us coming towards the end of our own degrees in the real world. So I thought I'd just take it from Batista this week. I'm just taking a break between my work, hyped up on caffeine. So let's go on with it. We are going to basically do a quick review of the matches from this week. This has been the semi-finals week, and then we're going to have a quick outlook into what's going to be happening in the finals. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this going. So week semi-finals week in review. We had the Bolton Bashers versus the Aloha Araquanids, and I always want to say Alola, but it's Aloha Araquanids. Now, this was a match of the top seed of the Diamond Division versus the fourth seed of the Diamond Division. The Arachnids, it was a rematch. And I think it was a week, I want to say one rematch, might be week 2 from the regular season, where the Bolton Bashers did lose to the Arachnids 2-1, I think. But here in the rematch in the semi final rounds, the rematch master himself, the Bolton Bashers, took a very strong 2-0 win versus the Arachnids. It was a really good game. I'll get into the details of it in a minute. And then we had the current champion, Panda, the reigning Season 7 champion, versus the Miss Magical Marauders and Miss Mag. So this was another 2-0 win for the reigning champion. He is still in it to defend his title. This was the, I think, Pearl division first seed in Panda versus the third seed 4-4 team from Diamond, the Marauders. Now, again, another really strong match from the Pang. I can never say it, but it's the Baltimore Pangorials. Yeah, really strong performance. And again, we'll get into the details of it in a few moments. Both games, though, showed some really strong plays from both winners. Both winners played really good games, but that's not to say that the losers of the games didn't play well. They did give a strong performance. However, just fell a bit short in this penultimate week. So, yeah, let's talk about the games. So, we first talk about the Aloha Arachnids versus the Bolton Bashers. This is KJ versus Guma. Guma being a 2-time champion of the VDL-V division. He hasn't won a season since we did the split, I believe. Because we had... Oh, no, he did. He won the very first time we split up into VDL-V because he beat me in the VDL-V finals that season. So yeah, this is the first time. So this is the Bashers return back to the final. In this semi-final match, we had a really strong Smogmog. Nothing more to say. Weezing had one hell of a game, the Glaring Weezing, and the Arachnids really struggled around it. So the Arachnids brought this Comfy, the physical Moltres, Galarian Moltres, Togedemaru, also known as the Bastard Mouse, Diggersby. I think they had a Moongus, but I don't think it actually came to the matches. And Slowbro. I can't remember what item was on Slowbro. It might have been Weakness Policy, from if memory serves me correctly. Some really cool sets on the Arachnids team. And this was up against the Bolton Bashers that had this Eldegoss with Zoom Lens. They had the Dracovish, they had Hippowdon, they had Weezing, they had Tornadus, and the last mon escapes me right now. I can just quickly check though, because I do have their teams. Oh well, I did have the teams, but oh well. So yeah, I'm saying a lot of nothing at the moment, it feels, but basically the way the games flowed is that the Araquanids led, say, Togedemaru plus the Moltres Galarian in the first match, and the Bashers led the Eldegoss and I want to say Weezing, but I might be wrong. It might have been Tornadus. Um, and how the game kind of flowed out is that it got to this point where Eldegoss was wiped out after turn one, so it might not have been Weezing on the field. It might have been something else. Oh yeah, Eldegoss and Tornadus led, and Eldegoss got wiped out basically before it could really do anything by the Brave Bird from the Moltres. But that Brave Bird recoil really put a number on the Moltres. The Weezing comes out with Tornadus. There's this double knockout from the Weezing, I want to say, but can't remember too much. I think the Tornadus goes down at some point. Weezing gets the kill. And basically, we're left with this endgame that lasts the entire match. And it's Dracovish and Weezing versus Diggersby and Comfey. Now, because of Weezing is on the field, neutralizing gas, meaning that both Triage and the Diggersby's huge power are not in effect. And the Dracovish is on the field at like 1 or 2% HP. It's very weak from the sucker punches from the Moltres Galar from the previous few turns. And the Weezing has burnt the Diggersby, or goes to burn the Diggersby this turn. The Diggersby is a choice scarf Diggersby, and it is forced to lock into, or choice band, one of the two. It's choiced from what we can tell in the video, and it's forced to lock into quick attack. Now, it quick attacks to kill the Dracovish so that the Dracovish can't kill the Diggersby or the Comfey or do big damage with a Vicious Rend. So it put into a position where it's the only move it can do. It kills the Dracovish to make it a 2v1 of Weezing versus Comfey and a now burnt Diggersby. And what this means is that the Comfey is going for these Calm Minds to try and set up a little bit, which is pretty good into the Basher's Weezing, because the Weezing isn't running a poison move, it's only running Play Rough as a physical fairy move. Now, what the Arachnids don't know is, at this point, the Weezing is also running Haze, which was really clutch in the fact that it could just remove the stat boost that the Comfey had. The Weezing did try and get down the Diggersby, but with a Floral Healing, it still little to no effect of trying to 1v2 that if it went for the Diggersby. So the Weezing ends up having to target Comfey a few times with Play Roughs, protecting to get the Black Sludge recovery every so often. And like the Bashers play a really good endgame where they're identifying when they need to attack, when they need to protect, how much of the damage is these double ups going to do of Draining Kiss plus a burnt quick attack. Will a crit kill him or not from this range? And he plays it really well to the point where he manages to edge out both Mons, both Comfey, both Diggersby, with Weezing being on pretty low HP, where a couple back-to-back crits possibly could have put to the Weezing just out of it. Now, that's taking game one. Game two, we see a change up from the Arachnid side and the Basher side. The Bashers this time deciding to bring Hippowdon onto the field on the lead, and the Arachnids have got the Slowbro. Now, I don't remember if the Slowbro was led or not. I know that they had the Moltres, the Comfey, and the Togedemaru. And I feel, personally, that the game went a little bit better for the Bolton Bashers, because with a yawn from the Hippo on the turn it get killed, it manages to put the Slowbro to sleep, just putting it out of commission for a bit, which potentially could have been pretty detrimental to the Bashers, but there's this pivotal turn where he thinks that, is he going to swap out the Slowbro here, or is he going to go for a Psychic into the Weezing? Because Slowbro is probably the only mon that really checks this Weezing at this point. And the Bashers decide to just go for Protect, reading into a Psychic from the Slowbro, and yeah, the Arachnids go for the Psychic. the Wheezing gets protect off, and the Slowbro goes back to sleep, which kind of puts the Slowbro out of commission a little bit. It allows the Wheezing to just do its job for a bit, and between a Vicious Rend and a Crunch from the Dracovish, which has come into the field, it manages to KO the Slowbro, and the Weezing's looking in a better position again. Yeah, there's an argument to be made that the Bashers possibly could have gone for a play rough into the Moltres a bit sooner rather than going for the Will-O-Wisp, but the burn was pretty nice to just keep the damage output of the Moltres in check, especially from those sucker punches into like Dracovish, to stop it from taking too much damage. So, which obviously a sucker punch into a Dracovish goes for Vicious Rend, so you're going to be taking half damage from the Rends. You're not going to get that boost on the Rends, and it's going to be doing pretty decent damage. But sadly, the Bashers identify that they need to target down the Comfey a little bit sooner this game, and they start attacking the Comfey with the Wheezing a little bit earlier than they did the previous game. And it never really looked like the Wheezing was in a threatened position after that Slowbro went down. So, yeah, a really strong win for the Bashers, and one of their favourite mons, Wheezing, really did well this week. So that's it. Bashers really well played. Arachnids, sad to see you bow out at this stage of the competition, but did really well to get to the top 4 nonetheless. And with that, we move on to the analysis. Oh, hello. And with that, we move on to the analysis between the Miss Mag and Panda. Now, this was a really strong game from Panda. He brought the Tyranitar. Okay. There must be a animation or something on this. I don't know. Panda had a really strong game. He brought the Sand Mode. He brought the Primarina. Can't mind Primarina. He brought the Cat. I can't think of its name. Torracat. He brought Tangrowth, and I think there was a fish. That's the Styx, isn't it? No. I think there was another mon he brought, but he never brought it to the actual game, so I don't recall what it was. Basically, Panda's whole stick was the Torracat, the Prim, the T-Tar, and the Tangrowth. And Miss Mag had the Tornadus, the Xurkitree, the Klefki, a special Incineroar, Marowak, and Gurdurr. Now, in game 1, the Primarina got a Calm Mind set up pretty early on. Okay, we're just going to have to live with the fact that those two teams are up at the top, but you know the teams. So, yeah, got Calm Mind up pretty early on, and really early got the KO on the Marowak. Now, this was kind of bad for the Miss Mag's team, because he then kind of lost any form of counter to a Tyranitar in Stand, because he didn't have the Klefki for the weather control in this game. The Incineroar is special, the Xurkitree is special, so the Scorching Sands isn't doing a lot to the T-Tar, the Dazzling Gleam isn't doing a lot to T-Tar, and Tornadus isn't doing a lot to T-Tar. So the Tyranitar was pretty free to get some damage onto the board. The Primarina did end up going down in the end, but the Torracat and the Tangrowth just providing that supportive disruption and redirection. And okay, this must have a timer on it to change slides, and this is really annoying. So yeah, it was just not the. He was just kind of caught out of position after the first few turns, and didn't really have an answer for the T-Tar. Another thing to really notice about the way Panda plays as well is he's very preserving of his mons. He doesn't like leaving the mons in the field if they're going to die, if he feels like they can be better off suited later on in the game. He'll swap out even if he's got a Calm Mind boost. He'll parting shot with the Torracat. He plays a very pivoting game with the Torracat, getting the stand up with the Tyranitar for like finding out maybe where the safety goggles are, if there's anywhere, so he knows if the Tangrowth can Rage Powder or not. The Tangrowth with regenerators, able to just swap and regain health, and he creates a lot of defensive switches that which allows him to read the game. from reading his opponent. And Mismag was kind of caught out a lot of times in this game where he was trying to get the kill or make a read on Panda, and Panda was able to either read what Mismag was doing or playing a safe turn, where regardless of what Mismag did, Panda felt like there wasn't really a detriment to what he was doing. And this carried on into game 2, where Mismag brought the Klefki, he brought the Tornadus, the Xurkitree, and I believe Girder instead. And he brought the Girder to try and counter the T-Tar a little bit more. It had Poison Jab for the Primarina and the Tangrowth, but with the Intimidate cycling of the Torracat and Parting Shots, it did get some damage on the Prim, but never really got a chance to attack the T-Tar. The Xurkitree got some damage off, but kind of went down a little bit too soon before he could even do any damage onto the... Oh, this is driving at the wall. To do really any damage into the Primarina, which is kind of what his job was that game. And the Tornadus got caught out at the end with some Rock Slides just from Tyranitar, because again, just wasn't able to get anything on the board damage-wise. And I felt like... Oh yeah, and then the Klefki got a nice Thunder Wave into the Primarina, which allowed it to get a few outs here and there. Set up the Sunny Day to try and, at the start of the game, to try and mitigate some of that Hyper Voice damage that really wrecked through him at the start. But Panda really played around this really well by just, got the Sunny Day up, but then he protects, and then from the Thunderbolts and reading the opponent really well. And then he swaps out the Tyranitar, swaps in the Tyranitar to reset stand to remove the stun weather effect. He had a nice flare blitz off with the Torracat early on into the Klefki slot. But luckily, Bright Powder on the Klefki meant that the flare blitz missed. So basically, the take-home message from this is that the Panda was playing a really good pivoting, switching game, quite defensive on his switches, whilst allowing to maintain a pressure on the field that Mismag was just unable to answer. There was a lot of times where Mismag's offensive pressure just wasn't doing anything. There was no pressure into Panda, or that Panda felt like he could switch around it. And it was almost a case of Panda being maybe a step or two ahead of Mismag through the two sets. So it was a really well-deserved win from Panda. I think there's a lot you can kind of take from this game, not talking just Panda, anyone who watches this one, to really see how Panda likes to play. I feel like it's a very synonymous with a lot of his seasons. Like, I remember him being a very defensively switching orientated player in his first season here, and he's doing the same thing here again. He has a team that really likes to switch in on itself, really, and cause a lot of disruption with the Torracat, and leans into like Tangrowth and the Cofagrigus for defensive support, and fast fake out pressure from like the Persian and the Torracat. And so yeah, it's a really, really well won game. Not much else to really say about this, other than congratulations to Panda. But yeah, we move on to the finals. So yeah, it's the final between the Bolton Bashers and the Baltimore Pangorials, two previous VDL title holders, a two-time champion versus the current season 7 champion. So it should make for a really good game. I'm really excited. So yeah, we've got both these teams here. I think, oh my goodness, this is driving me at the wall. I don't really want to pause the video. So, for some reason, one of the slides just keeps on going onto the others, and I don't know how to stop it from doing so. So I'm just going to come into here. I don't care that you can see everything here. I'm not cutting this. Let's try and get it a little bit better. Okay, so a few things to note here is that, like in the Bashers' previous match, in the semi-final, they identified that the opponent's team really like to rely on their abilities. I feel like there is a similar thing here. You've got the Primarina who likes its Liquid Voice, the Tangrowth that likes its Regenerator, the Tyranitar that likes its Sand being up for itself, as well as the Dracozold's Volt Absorb or Sand Rush. or hustle. The Torracat likes its Intimidate. The competitive and defiant mons like their abilities. The inner focus mon in Glalie. You've got the Dog Trio that has the Tangling Hair, and you've got Unnerved Persian. All these mons are really ability dependent to really strengthen Panda's team. And yet you've got on the Basher side, Wheezing. Neutralizing Gas. It's the same story from the previous week. And I feel like this is going to be a backbone for the Bashers team going up against the Panda. But what's more interesting than that is that you've got this conflicting sand modes. We have not conflicting, but you've got this matchup between two sand teams. You've got the Dracovish on one side with the Hippo, and you've got the Dracozolt with the Tyranitar on the other side. And I think this is really interesting because the Bashers can choose to either allow the stand to be a part of the game, or they can go against it. They really are the ones choosing the pace or choosing the way that game is going to be played. I also believe like you've got the Defiant Pistimian versus a Torracat with Intimidate. And the Pistimian is got a really strong matchup against into like say the Tyranitar. Maybe not as much into the Articuno or the Cofagrigus, but it's something that, or even Primarina, but it's something that the Panda's going to have to try and play around. However, that being said, like you've got Castola, which is a really good counter to Articuno, Prim, and Cofagrigus. Like special defense on that thing is really absurdly high, and its special offensive pressure is really good. So it's hitting your redirection on and tank growth. You're hitting the Articuno, the Prim. The T-Tar's not going to be taking anything too much, but like T-Tar's obviously a good counter into the Cursola. But then, as I say, you got that Pissimian and even the Vicious Rend from Dracovish. Like, I don't even know if Panda even wants to be playing in stand because the Dracovish can just absolutely murder Tyranitar. And yeah, you can run Pasture Berries and stuff. So there is answers there. But Wheezing is also a really good answer into, say, like Primarina, as it's got the ability to cancel its Liquid Voice. It's able to go for poison type moves into Prim. And it's not like the Panda really has any steel types outside of Dug Trio. And I feel like Dug Trio could play a decent role because if it threatens the Wheezing a little bit, because Bolt and Bashers kind of have to rely a bit more on their neutralizing gas, so they're not likely to be running Levitate. I don't actually know how good Tornadus does into this matchup. It does do really well into, say, like Tangrowth, but we did see a Tornadus play in the last week's match for the Panda, so like he's going to have to try and figure out how to play against this Tornadus that plays slightly differently as well. This isn't as fast of a Tornadus. It does have Prankster. It could also be running Defiant again for that Torracat. And I feel like that could be something the Bashers then could do. They might not need that Prankster pressure and instead go for a Defiant route. And then that parting shots from the Torracat are really going to be in question. Especially with like Klinklang as well on the board. Like Torracat does decent damage, don't get me wrong. A nice Flare Blitz can do big damage. Heatwave can do decently. But Klinklang's quite physically defensive. It's got that clear body. It's able to pressure, say, like Tyranitar again, and run a few coverage moves into, say, like Primarina or Articuno. It can hit the Glalie, which obviously Glalie is really good at, like maybe running Freeze Dry for the Dracovish, which the Dracovish is quite threatening into that team as well. So you've got all these interesting dynamics between the two teams, and although I believe like Panda's team is the stronger team overall, I feel like the Bashers have this defensive shutdown approach that the Pandas aren't really going to appreciate. Panda being the type of player who likes to be on this commanding, likes to command the flow of the game. He likes to be able to be in control of how the game's being played. But I feel like he's got less control in this matchup than what the Bashers do. And yeah, Panda's probably more got a bit more speed command, so like fake out with the Persian stuff over like fake out from Pikachu. But outside that, you've got Tailwind on the Basher side, Prankster, like he can choose when the neutralizing gas is on the field. As I say, like, there's just a lot of different variables, and it's definitely going to come down to the player's prep and skill in game. There's a lot of different modes. I haven't even mentioned the Oranguru for the Bashers, which I think could be really good as well into this game. With the Tyranitar being the only real threat to the Oranguru. So it's going to be a really interesting match. I'm sure all of you guys are excited to watch it. If I had to predict the mons that I expect to come from either side, I feel like we're going to see Dugtrio from from Panda, and I feel like from the Bashers, we're going to see a really interesting Tornado set. And I would say Oranguru could provide some good coverage, but I think Kasola is possibly the mon that I'm expecting to make a big impact for the Bashers. So yeah, that's the review. I believe that we are, if I just go back to these, we are premiering or doing a live commentary upload of this game at the end of the week, or into next week. I believe the Bashers are going to be recording the game between them, and it will be passed on to some live commentators that we're getting. I think some casters, that Castile boy from the Celadon Stuffles. I think he is going to be casting for us, or maybe one of his Victory Road co-casters. So yeah, like I'm really looking forward to that. As I say, like Casille Boy, really good caster, really good. I enjoy watching his videos this season. He's been playing over in VDLS, so he just hit out in this last round. He was in the top 4. And I will be providing links to the videos when they go live if we decide to do premieres or live videos. So keep an eye out in the VDL server for the start of next week, end of this week, for the videos of this final. Sorry, it's been a bit rambly. That's all I've got for you this week. And that concludes the review for the season. We won't be hosting any more draft reviews or season reviews or weekly reviews until the new season, and that will be possibly in January, maybe February. So with the new generation. So next time you see us, we'll be in Scarlet and Violet, and until then, thanks for watching. Catch you next time, guys.